Hi everyone, Mike Master Herbalist here. And today I'm going to do another Ask the Master Herbalist where I answer your questions that you send in to me. First, I want to say thank you to everybody. I'm slowly starting to see a couple of questions every few days roll into my email. And I'm trying to pick what I would think would be the most interesting question to make videos about. And I got what I consider to be a really interesting question because I don't get this question very often, which is what makes it unique, and I think that this is something that a lot of people would learn a lot from. So here it is. Mike, my question is with regard to trademark raw materials. Are they worth the money to purchase? Are they at a different level from, let's say, another herbal product of the same herb? So that's a great question. And so I'm going to back up just a little bit when I talk about what I'm about to talk about, because I think it's really important to first, let me tell you what a trademark raw material is. So a trademark raw material is where a company has taken an herb and they make a specific version of an extract, whether it's a 10-to-1 higher concentration, and then whether it's been also concentrated to very specific percentages of active ingredients. Now that could be what I've explained as an isolated standardized extract, or it can also be a full spectrum standardization extract, okay? And there are a lot of trademark raw materials out there, not just for herbs, but there are a ton of nutraceuticals, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and so on and so forth. Some of the more common ones you might have heard of when it comes to nutraceuticals are pharma-GABA, which is a specific version of the supplement GABA, or suntheanine, and it goes on and on and on. And there are some companies out there that make one specific trademark raw material, and then there are others where they have 15 or 20 of them under their blanket of companies that make trademark raw materials. Here's the thing that's really important to understand. When I speak about a trademark raw material, do not confuse that with having a patent on something. You cannot patent something from nature, but you can apply for a trademark that will protect specific aspects of that version of the extract that you're currently using. Okay. The other reason why people get trademarks in the industry is because having a trademark on a product gives the product a little bit more validity in terms of a bunch of different things, which is what I'm going to go into right now. So to answer to go into the exact details about trademark raw materials, let me tell you what I consider to be 4 specific advantages of using trademark raw materials. And then I will also go into what are the potential negatives of utilizing trademark raw materials. And then to end the video, I will answer the question in a more straightforward sense, okay? So number 1 is with regard to an advantage is that every single batch, every single capsule, every single tablet, every single batch of that trademark raw material, you are being guaranteed to get the exact same concentration and percentage of specific constituents, okay? That is pretty much a guarantee, okay? And that's really important because, as I've spoken about, one of the big things that matters when we're talking about using herbs in a medicinal matter is consistency. And I'm not just talking about consistency in taking it. You want to make sure that every batch that you take, if every bottle that you take, is going to provide you with exactly what you're looking for. Otherwise, your results for the therapy you're attempting to do are going to be all over the charts. And this is part of the reason why I'm a big fan of full spectrum and different versions of standardization on extracts for that reason, because you will always be guaranteed that what you're getting will be consistent. Versus, let's say, using a whole herb that's been dried and milled into a powder. You know, if you know that, what I define that as is the nature of nature. You know, no two batches are alike if you just pull it from nature and give it to someone in a cup of tea. Or let's say you dry the herb and you mill it into a powder and then you shove it into a capsule and it hasn't been extracted and concentrated. So there's no way to guarantee that those things are going to give you consistency. Now, I will say that there is a debate amongst what you might call, I call them more technically advanced herbalists, who believe in these different versions of extracts to bring you a better end product, which they do, versus, let's say, an old school herbalist or an old world thinking herbalist. The old world thinking herbalist is going to sit there and say, well, as long as you're taking it consistently, their belief is that it's not, you don't need a specific amount of the constituents themselves. As long as you're getting a consistent flow of it through your body by taking it every day, 2, 3, 4 times a day, that is where the healing properties comes in. And the one thing that they certainly do have behind them is time and results when it comes to long-term use of herbs in this way. I mean, when you look at the history of herbalism, that's what herbs are and that's how herbs are used, okay? But in today's world where I guess you can say science is what leads the pack, you need something that's going to give you consistency. And to me, I personally kind of sit somewhere in the middle because I realize that both versions work very well. But when we live in this sort of fast-paced, impatient world, that means I'm impatient, in case you didn't figure that out. We want things that are going to be consistent. We want every batch to be the same. And consistency and guarantee when it comes to potency and it comes to active constituents is number one why trademark raw materials are one version that are worth the time, effort, and money, okay? Number two is traceability, okay? So a company that owns that trademark, okay, and owns that raw material, okay, every single batch, if they sell it to a supplement maker and that supplement maker puts in their product, it's traceable. That every batch that they put out into the market is traceable, and you can go back to the original company and say, I want to see more assays, I want to see this, I want to see that. It's all traceable stuff, okay? I want to be clear when I say that my example with consistency and guarantee as well as traceability, there are many versions of herbs that have both of those. But again, it's important to understand that that is one of the things that does make trademark raw materials a very popular item in the industry, okay? Number three, and this to me is probably what most people will really find the most interesting aspect of it, okay, is research. When you look at research on plant medicine, one of the things you will undoubtedly see is the idea that these trademark raw materials are usually at the top of the ladder when it comes to companies that want to do research with herbs, because they know and they understand they're being guaranteed the fact that they are getting consistency in every single batch. So if you're doing, let's say, a 90-day or 120-day or a 1-year study and you need multiple bottles of something for each one of those participants to take, you are guaranteed exactly what they say is on the bottle is going to be on the bottle. So that to me is one of the things that I find very impressive. What you'll also find is if you look up some of these trademark raw materials, you will see that some of the most impressive studies have been done with these trademark raw materials. I'm going to give you a few examples of this, okay? For example, KSM 66 ashwagandha. Look up the studies on them. They are unbelievably impressive, and the results are accurate, and it's great stuff, okay? Another one, LJ100, which talks about the herb Tonkat Ali, which is a 100-to-1 standardized extract of Tonkat Ali, guaranteeing 2 specific constituents at percentages that are much higher than anyone else's Tonkat Ali, okay? They too, now that's an interesting company that makes that, because that was a combination of, get this, the Malaysian government came together with MIT, and that's how that beautiful love affair got started. So that's an interesting, you know, these are all really interesting stories when you look into the background of these different trademark raw materials. But I think one of the most impressive parts about it is that you're talking about research. Now, let's talk about research a little bit, because this is also something that's important, okay? One of the things that a lot of these trademark raw materials do, companies will do, is when they do their research using it, or other companies do their research using those trademark raw materials, they not only talk about the efficiency and the effectiveness of that trademark raw material, but one of the other things that they actually do is they do safety studies, okay? And I think that's really important, because what they will most often do is, here's an example. There's a nutraceutical out there called NAD+, okay? And if you look at, it's a trademark raw material, that the NAD+, okay? And it's one company makes it. And what's really impressive about some of the research that was done on this particular nutraceutical was that there were several studies. One of them said that the sweet spot is about 400 to 500 milligrams a day. And what they found was that anything above 500 milligrams a day, that you're not going to see any extra benefit from that supplement. Okay, so keeping it within the 500 and below is where you're going to see the best results. But what was really good about this company is they took the time to do a study where they used as much as 2,000 milligrams a day, which is up to 4 to 5 times that 4 to 500 milligrams, and it was a safety study. There was no toxicity, no side effects, no negatives from using that 2,000 milligrams a day. You don't need to use that much because there's really no extra benefit from using that much. But that's just a good example, as far as I'm concerned, of when I speak about that stuff. Okay, so and that's what that was number 4 on my list after research, is to discuss the idea of the safety aspect of trademark raw materials. Most of these trademark raw material companies will do not just studies on, you know, specific conditions or issues, but they also do safety studies, and they do efficiency studies with how well the body is utilizing it. Okay, so they can look at blood markers to see the level of blood markers. For example, you know, there are many different curcumin trademark raw materials. BCM95 and Mariva are the 2 biggest ones on the market and the most well-known, and they both have efficiency studies and safety studies that are specifically showing, you know, blood level of curcuminoids compared to using just a regular turmeric powder when it comes to utilization and absorption by the body. Okay, so I think these are really all important reasons why trademark raw materials do stand out. Now, I should also mention something else from my own research of calling and or emailing several of these trademark raw material companies. What I have also learned is that, so this trademark raw material company will sell their raw materials to, let's say, brand X. I'm obviously making up the name, brand X, okay? We'll take KSM 66, ashwagandha, and you buy brand X's ashwagandha on Amazon, okay? And on the label, on the side panel, it says ashwagandha, in parentheses, KSM 66, and then it has the breakdown of the constituents and the values of the ashwagandha KSM 66. And then next to it, it says on top it says serving size 1 capsule, and that 1 capsule is equal to 300 milligrams. Well, there is a contract that is signed, a trademark contract that is signed between Brand X and KSM 66 that clearly states if you are going to use our trademark raw material and put our trademark on your bottle, you have a legal responsibility to make sure that you are using 100% of that product in that, of our product in your product. So if it says KSM 66, 300 milligrams per capsule, it must be 100% of that 300 milligrams from of ashwagandha in that capsule must come from KSM 66. If it is not, then it must be broken down to what it states. If there's only 150, it will say, there will be 2 lines. Line 1 will be KSM 66, 150 milligrams, and then let's say 10 to 1, or we'll say 200 to 1 extract of ashwagandha that's standardized to specific constituent levels for another 150 milligrams. It must break it down if it is not 100% KSM 66. So that is another assurance for people, okay, to be able to get what they are paying for. Now, the final thing I want to mention about this, which is also really important, is that when we talk about these trademark raw materials, part of this is going in on faith, okay? Because when I ask some of these companies, well, do you randomly purchase bottles from these companies to test it? And the answer they said is no. They have a legal contract that states if you use this our raw material and you put our trademark, you must use 100% of the product in your product. And that's wonderful, but the rest is going on good faith. So there is the part that some people might find to be a little bit of a gap in the system. I don't personally think it is, because what you're really ultimately talking about when you talk about whether or not Brand X is going to be honest is they would be breaking 2 laws. Number 1, they would be breaching a contract, which is a legal documented contract, and number 2, they would be committing fraud if they lied on their label about it, which is again illegal to commit fraud. I'm not saying that people don't do it, but it's illegal to do. So I just want people to understand that while it may not be a perfect system, there are specific gap stops or stop gaps, whatever the hell the expression is, to prevent those things from happening. So those are really, to me, the top 4 things that really make it trademark raw materials, in my opinion, a worthwhile investment if you're someone who wants what would be considered irrefutable proof, okay? Now, I've spoken about this in my in some of my other videos. The reason why my top 4 companies get the endorsement that I give to them is because they are transparent, they are honest, and they will answer all questions, and they will show proof, okay? So to me, that leads the game as far as I'm concerned. That doesn't mean that it makes them any better or worse than a trademark raw material. But what I am saying is I don't want people just to hold trademark raw materials as the pinnacle of everything, because as I have proven in one of those videos I did a while ago about my top 4 company and my top 7 criteria, there are plenty of great legitimate herb companies out there, okay? So in conclusion, I'm sorry, before I go in conclusion, I would probably say that when I speak about the negatives of trademark raw material would be a few things. 1, some people, I don't personally feel this way, but some people would consider that because you're paying a little bit more money for a trademark raw material, that's a negative, okay? But what you're really paying for in a lot of ways is a guarantee. And I believe most people are willing to pay that extra $4 or $5 at most for that guarantee, okay? Number 2 was that little difference with the good faith aspect. Again, I have great confidence in these companies from emailing and speaking to them on the phone. The idea that, yes, while there is that last aspect that I explained about good faith, I will also state once again that there are other things that are very solid about that relationship between the trademark company and brand X, who wants to produce products using that trademark raw material. Okay, so in certain ways they are held to specific legal standards. Okay, and in reality, I don't personally believe that it is, let's say, Meriva or BCM 95 or KSM 66. I don't think it's their responsibility to keep brand X honest. Me personally, if I were going to buy brand X, I would be calling up brand X, asking them to show me, do they do any testing? You understand what I'm saying? Or how can they prove that 100% of their product is KSM 66? You know what I'm saying? So I don't think that's KSM 66's necessarily their full-on responsibility, because, you know, that would be, in my opinion at least, for a business, that would be an incredible increase of cost on them to have to randomly pick bottles and buy bottles just to test other people's products. What they know is this: from their place to brand X, they are guaranteeing that you are getting KSM 66. And those contracts that they have with these people is a legal, is solid legal stuff that shows that you are going to get what you pay for. Okay? So again, that's why I'm sort of throwing it into the mix as a potential negative for some people. Okay? And I guess that would probably be, in my opinion, oh, well, actually the third one. So the third one would probably be the minor negative is this idea of that when you talk to more old school herb manufacturers like Gaia Herbs and other companies, the truth is that, and they are right, where, you know, they state that there are things that you're not getting when it comes to the holistic aspect of an herb by using something that has been standardized, which I've spoken about. And I want to be clear, not all trademark raw materials are, let's say, specifically isolated, standardized. Like KSM 66 is a 10-to-1 full spectrum concentrate ashwagandha. So it's a great product in that way. But let's say, for example, the company that makes Afron Saffron, that's a isolated, standardized version of saffron. And yes, it is true, there may be many great studies on Afron Saffron, but there are aspects that are missing from not getting the full spectrum concentration of all the constituents in there. So that would be the other negative. But again, what I have found in my personal experience as an herbalist is the ones who really go after the trademark raw materials and want trademark raw materials are the ones who are really interested in getting that guarantee, or they want to see the connection between the herb and the research. And that's where I have to say there's a wonderful there's a wonderful marriage between research and trademark raw materials. So to answer your question, which, by the way, I thank you again for sending in the question, my answer is you have to look at your own personal needs and desires and what you're looking for. I think I've answered the question by showing you both ends of the spectrum, by saying, yes, there are great positives to it, and there are some potential minor negatives to it, in my opinion. Me personally, I do use some trademark raw material products myself, and I really do like them, and I like the results I get from them. So to me, I give certain trademark raw materials a thumbs up. Thanks again for sending in the questions. I hope you keep them coming. This is Mike Stuccino, Master Herbalist, signing out.